Welcome to this Real America's Voice special, which is all about Angel Studios and an exciting new partnership. By now, most people have heard of the film studio that gave rise to the success of Sound of Freedom and The Chosen, two extremely successful projects that have had Hollywood rethinking how to do things. Case in point, Sound of Freedom was an already finished major motion picture from Disney that they decided to shelve, thinking that the subject matter of child trafficking was just too much for audiences. But, as fortune had it, producer Eduardo Verástegui bought the rights back and took the project to Angel, which was able to crowdfund the distribution and the marketing of the film, and bam, you now have a major success. And just as importantly, awareness of a real issue that is based on an inspirational true story. This is the beauty of what Angel does. They take content that Hollywood is overlooking or refuses to produce, and they give it a chance within a community of like-minded viewers that Hollywood often forgets about. This was the birth of the Angel Guild, in which you, the viewer, have a voice in what gets made. So filmmakers create what's called a torch, which is kind of like a pilot, and then they present it to the Guild, which then can vote on it. And if that project has an overwhelming favorability with the Guild, it can then be greenlit, and then can raise funds to finish production or go ahead and be distributed and marketed. The exciting thing is that Real America's Voice has a brand new partnership with Angel Studios, so that all of our audience can enjoy the content that Angel creates. We are talking titles like The Shift, Cabrini, His Only Son, Homestead, and After Death. And speaking of Homestead, later on in this special, I'll be interviewing actor Neil McDonough, who starred in Homestead as well as his brand new Angel film, The Last Rodeo. I'll also speak with actress Lee Allen Baker, who has a new musical series called A Week Away, and director Sean Stone, son of Oliver Stone, who has a new documentary called RFK Legacy. So you see, there's a lot of great content coming out of the Angel pipeline. Now, you heard me talk about the Angel Guild. So, the opportunity for our viewers is to join the Angel Guild so that you can access all these great films and series. And here's how you do it. Go to angel.com/rav and just follow the very easy instructions. And then you'll be able to view all the great content that Angel has to offer, from dramas to comedies to kids content as well. And in this hour, you'll get just a taste of all this great content. So stick around, and we'll be right back. I'm Beau Davidson with your Real America's Voice Real Minute. At Camp A Week Away, a Christian summer camp filled with adventure and camaraderie, kids come together for experiences that challenge and inspire them. Between canoe races, campfires, and heartfelt conversations, they form deep friendships and uncover new layers of their faith and identity. Each day at camp offers opportunities for personal growth, connection, and unforgettable memories.
Come on, pick it up. Let's go. I can't be the only one pumped to go read a Bible in the middle of the woods for a week.
If you need a hand with packing, we're here to help.
Thank God.
A troubled teenager takes a leap of faith to attend Camp A Week Away in this series directed by Alan Powell, and a cast that stars Antonio Cipriano, David Koechner, Lee Allen Baker, and Carlos Penavega. It has music from the same producers who created High School Musical and Camp Rock.
3, 2, 1, more time.
Why am I here? It's the question we're all asking ourselves.
This action-packed fun series will have you asking, why am I here? And what is my purpose? The series streams exclusively on Angel Studios' platform, so the best way to see this new series is by joining the Angel Guild, a community of over 1 million members that have a vested voice in what series and films get greenlit by Angel. This means that A Week Away was voted on by members of the Guild to move forward. So becoming a Guild member is like being a member of the Television Academy, and you'll get all the perks from the comfort of your own home. So head on over to angel.com/rav to join the Guild and watch A Week Away today. This is your Real America's Voice Real Minute. I'm Beau Davidson. If you or your kids were ever fans of Disney's Good Luck Charlie, the name Lee Allen Baker will be very familiar to you. She now stars in a new series called A Week Away, which exclusively streams on Angel Studios streaming platform, and she joins me now. Lee Allen, it is such a pleasure to speak with you. Firstly, I want to know all about A Week Away. Give me the brief synopsis, if you can, and the character that you play.
I'm going to give you a real quick log line. Imagine Glee, but set at a summer Christian camp. It is a musical that gives you all the feels. It has comedy, it has drama, and it has so much heart and so much Jesus. And the music, the dancing, the acting is absolutely, unequivocally the best project I've ever been a part of.
And the character that you play.
Yes, I play a character named Carla, and my father used to be in charge of the camp. That was part of his ministry, and now my character's job is to take it over and oversee that it is a success.
Well, it sounds like it's got a lot of excitement. I personally love the musical element of it because as a musician myself, that interested me. But I also know that the series poses the question of faith and purpose. And, you know, Lee Allen, surely in Charlie Kirk's ultimately his untimely death, but his ultimate faith have had to have renewed purpose in many, many people. How has the idea of purpose been on your mind in these past few weeks? And how would you say that that subject is handled in A Week Away?
I think, purpose for me really started to drive home with the tyrannical mandates of COVID and the world really being in an upheaval. I really started to wake up to this is my life, and I don't want to just do television series. I want to leave this world better than I found it for my kids and the generation that watched me on Good Luck Charlie. Gen Z is very important to me and close to my heart. Every time I see them, they say, you raised me. And it's such a gift and a compliment. And so I want to really be here to encourage that generation. And then Charlie, who was just the brilliant voice of an entire movement of not just faith, but of family and of freedom. And Charlie was such a genius and such a polite genius to invite conversation so that violence could hopefully be thwarted by communication. That was his gift, right? And so I do feel that I'm going to take that on. When Charlie was shot, my kids first said to me, "We're scared. We don't want you to go on any more campus tours." And I just took a deep breath. And even though my body was shaking, I told them, "I'm not here to raise cowards. I'm here to raise lions. And you guys need to know how to speak up for truth no matter what." So I feel that I feel that this musical really pushes faith and the questions that we all have about it and the dilemmas and the faults that we all go through as human beings, and that there's a God who loves us and is there for us. And it's just a message that is so beautifully told.
It's so interesting, I think, Lee Allen, too. I know that you were at Turning Point's event recently, and I was there as well, and it's just kind of hard to think about it in that respect. When we think about purpose and faith and the calling that we have, this notion of revival obviously is happening in this country right now. People watching that memorial and coming to know Jesus and coming to know Christ. It's also interesting that A Week Away happens to be, streaming right now and kind of answering this question. So within the context of the plot, how do you think Gen Z and younger people will come to know their sense of purpose and faith through this series, would you say?
I want people in Gen Z to know, I want you kids to know that this show, it shows the imperfection and the perfection, the imperfection in religion, the perfection in Jesus Christ. And it really, I think, will bend more knees and answer more questions. And it does it in a way that is so palatable to Gen Z that I encourage every single one of them to take comfort in this musical for such a time as this, truly.
Absolutely. Indeed. And we mentioned music earlier. I know that you perform this incredible song in the show called Hell of It, which has, I think, over 500,000 plays on Spotify now. Now, Lee Allen, because I have been fortunate enough to perform some of my own songs in various films and TV shows, I know the personal joy of it. So congratulations for this piece of music. But tell me more about this song and the theme of it, the lyrics of it, and how it fits into the show.
Okay, well, I did not perform it. Cozy Zulsdorf wrote this song, and it was just a little moment of genius. But I will be performing one, and I've already told them, season 2, I'm singing and dancing. But for right now, this is a song called For the Hell of It. And it's about stepping out, looking up, opening your hands, and even when life is awful and rotten and wicked and cold. There's a God who loves you. So let's just right now in the darkest hour, thank him just for the hell of it. Just for the hell of it, thank him.
Wow.
Thank him that Charlie was able to speak boldly so that we can go forward and speak boldly. Thank you in times of distress and need that maybe my children won't have to be in distress and need because of what I'm learning. Thank you for the lessons, the hardships that we learn and go through that help us to grow and strengthen us and bring us closer to God.
Yeah, those are beautiful lyrics and a beautiful sentiment. I think music, at least for me always, and probably for you too, Lee Allen, has a way of transforming people in ways that sometimes, words cannot. So when you heard the song for the first time, did it motivate you in the same way you think it will with a lot of people watching this?
Let me just tell you, when I heard this song, we were working on my contract, and it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, you've got me for 14 days and then I'm a heart out. And what ended up happening was I heard this song and I called them and I said, hey, like, I'm local. I live here. Put me in this musical and this show wherever you want me. Take your time. I'm here for you because I so believe in this project. This song is going to bend more knees and answer more questions and bring more love into the hearts of people than a lot of pastors from pulpits could ever do.
And I think even looking at Charlie Kirk's memorial recently, to see the way that people, as you said, have bended the knee, hearing those worship songs and having this moment of Jesus in a way that we haven't really seen before in a very, very long time. And music has that transformational quality. Well, finally, Lee Allen, we like to talk about the Angel Guild because Angel Studios has really just turned the Hollywood model upside down to give viewers a stake in the game and what projects get made. Tell me about the importance of what Angel Studios does and why becoming a guild member would be so special.
So Angel isn't just faith forward, it's also freedom forward. And it is, to me, it is a network, a platform for the people where our voice gets heard. The people vote on what projects are to be made. They have to pass the guild, and the guild is you, the people. You get to be the executive producer on these projects. You get to be in control of what your children watch, what your family watch, what you consume as far as entertainment goes. It makes a difference in this world what you consume. And so this guild has just, like you said, it's flipped the entertainment industry on its head, and I am here for it. I am here for it. So if you get onto Angel, you can go to angel.com, or if you follow me on social media, you can go to my Instagram page. It's an odd name. It's L_A_Baker_13 because everyone had stolen Lee Allen Baker already. But if you look up Lee Allen Baker, and it will pop up on Google to tell you where to find me. And if you go to my link tree, you can get 30% off becoming a member.
Fantastic. Well, that's fantastic. Lee Allen, make sure that everyone out there goes and follows Lee Allen on social media, as she said. And you also go to angel.com/Rav to join the guild and catch Lee Allen Baker in a week away. Thank you so much, Lee Allen.
Thank you.
Well, Neil, thank you so much for joining me. Let's talk about this film, The Last Rodeo, in which you play a retired bull rider who returns to the sport after a family emergency. Give us some details as to what audiences can expect.
Well, if you're a rodeo fan, you're going to go crazy for this film because we got to use the real PBR riders. They're playing themselves in the film, which is just kind of awesome and adds such an authenticity to the film itself. But it's really a family film. It's a film that talks about real life issues that happen in families. And for me, it was very personal when I wrote it. It's all about, I went through some really hard times in my life through years ago when I wouldn't do certain things in a movie, and I got kind of crucified for it, and I lost everything. And then I started turning into, there wasn't a bottle of whiskey that I didn't like. And I had a really hard time. And when I came out of it with such an appreciation because I realized that I was making life about myself and wallowing in my self-pity. And then my wife put it to me so perfectly: you got to man up and get through this. And it was turning back to God because God's always there for us. We're not always there for him. And what happened thereafter? I mean, if you asked me 10 years ago, I'd be starring and producing and writing my own films. I thought, you're crazy. I don't have a penny right now. And to be back here where I am, talking to you, Beau, about this film, The Last Rodeo, that I wrote and produced and starred with my wife, Reve. I'm so proud of this film, but it's a film that I know the heartland of America is going to love to see. It's something that that has been lost in many years in Hollywood. They've lost the talking to the heartland, talking about American core values. We've done some pretty dark things out in Hollywood, and I'm guilty in being part of a lot of it. And now I have the ability to make films with Angel Studios that talk about real issues. The whole family can go and see. You don't have to cover your kids' ears or eyes in any part of any of the films that we're making, and they really give glory to God. So for me, I'm so blessed to be in this position. To sit here on your show and talk to you about The Last Rodeo is just something that's really incredible in this journey that we've had.
Well, Neil, it's interesting because, many people know you primarily as a villain, such as in Yellowstone and The Shift. But in this film, you get to be the father, the grandfather, and perhaps more importantly, the hero. And not only that, you have your first on-screen kiss with a woman. So did you relish being the good guy for once?
Yeah, well, we've the last few years through Greater and then the Warrant films and a few of these other films, I'm finally getting to play the characters that I always wanted to play. I always wanted to play the John Wayne guy. I always wanted to play the Paul Newman types of characters, but I couldn't because I won't kiss another woman. The only woman I will kiss in life is my wife. So who did we cast to play my wife in this film? But none other than my wife, Reve. And maybe the greatest moment of my life was that day that I finally got to be the hero. I knew at that moment I'm the hero in a major motion picture. And I get to I finally get to kiss the woman in the end. And that woman was my wife, Reve. So I got to do it on my terms finally. And it took a long time to get here. Trust me, that's 30 plus years of being in this industry of figuring out how to get where I wanted to go. And now I'm there. And it's just an incredible feeling. And I'm so blessed and thank God every day for the opportunity to be where I am, who I am, and what I've achieved alongside my wife. Well,
what interested you in this bull riding plot, Neil? You've done a fair amount of work in Westerns, but this is a plot that requires some serious physical ability. So what got you interested in, and what type of training was required for it?
Well, the idea came to me when I was doing The Warrant Part 2, and I was away from Reve and the kids, and I thought, I really miss Reve, but what would ever happen if something happened to Reve? And I pulled over to the side of the road, and it just kind of buckled me. And I saw some horses out there, and I'm fairly certain God put this idea in my head. Write a movie about what you just said, Rocky on a Bull, about an aged rodeo star who has to go back, who lost his wife because of certain things. And I won't go into the story too much, but that's how it all came about. And for the training for the film, I trained my butt off. I went on this certain diet for several months. I started with this new company that really got me into shape called Flip My Life that now I'm the spokesman for. I believed in it so much I said, I need to be the spokesman because this is a product that actually works. And I've tried so many different products, but when you see me in the film, I'm shredded, the 58-year-old guy who's shredded in a movie, no drugs, none of this stuff. It was just hard work and Flip My Life. So it was great. And then to train on the mechanical bulls with, Buddy Joe Hooker, who's a trainer on the film, who was the stunt coordinator. He pushed me, and they all pushed me to be in the best shape that I could possibly be in, and I loved it. I'm a knucklehead when it comes to training, and being an athlete as I was when I was younger in hockey and baseball, this was just I love this stuff. That I love doing my own stunts. I love getting whooped, and they certainly whooped me a lot in The Last Rodeo. Well,
I was fortunate enough to see an advanced copy of this film that audiences will get to see, and family is a central theme of The Last Rodeo, and I personally, Neil, had an estranged relationship with my father that I was able to reconcile, and your character is also able to heal old wounds with his daughter. So many people battle, with broken families through no fault of their own, but do you think that stories like this can provide maybe a template for how to overcome these fractures?
Yeah, people say, are you making faith-based films? And Reve and I both say, no, we're not making faith-based films. We're making films that give glory to God for sure, but we want Christians, Jews, agnostics, Muslims, anybody to come to the film and say, oh, if that guy can get through that situation, why can't I? And hopefully, as corny as that sounds, when you see a really great movie, it changes you. When you see great television, it changes you. And Hollywood has gotten away from the positivity side. They've been just a lot of negative stuff going. We decided to make a switch on that. And with Angel Studios as our distributor, they have absolute faith in what we're doing with the McDonough Company and making films that actually talk to families, talk about real issues and how you can possibly get through them by watching these characters. And it's awesome. It's something I'm just immensely proud of, and I can't wait to see where this goes with The Last Rodeo and where the McDonough Company goes thereafter with Angel Studios. Well, you mentioned Hollywood, Neil. You've said that when you saw some of the breakdowns for this year of what the major studios wanted, that 4 or 5 of them out of about 10 said they wanted more faith content. And that's
an absolute rarity. I know it shocked you. We've even seen this in the streaming world currently with House of David on Prime. What has caused this change in what the studios are wanting to produce?
I think the heartland of America, by going out supporting films like Homestead, we shot for $5 million, just past $25 million in the box office. That's crazy. And why is that? Because families want to go to the theater together, not just mom and dad. The kids go to a different movie. Kids don't want to go to certain movies because it's too advanced or too goofy or whatever the case is. These are movies that everyone can go and watch and learn from. So we keep writing and creating films that the heartland of America will go to as a group and watch a film together. And then after the film, you go have an ice cream with your whole family and say, okay, what'd you think of this? What did you think of that? How can we get through these problems? Oh, boy, I could do a little bit better at that than what I'm doing right now, or I could drink a little bit less, or I could fight a little bit less, or make it less about myself. And when you see characters who actually struggle, characters who really struggle and get through it in the end with faith, that's what we're writing and that's what we're creating. And I think the heartland of America just wants to see more of that. And we're going to keep giving it to them because they're asking for it. And I think that Hollywood is finally listening to the heartland of America saying, you know what? I think they're right. We need to start making more positivity.
Does this mean, Neil, that faith-forward content is now no longer just a niche genre relegated to conservative people, but actually a storytelling mechanism that is both inspirational and profitable?
Profitable for sure. I mean, these films are doing so very well. Look at the Kendrick brothers have done. Look what the Irwin brothers have done. You know, Dallas Jenkins' Last Christmas movie, that cost under $10 million to make, and that made $30 million in the box office. Those are big numbers. They may not seem huge, but you look at, well, a Marvel film makes $200 million in the box office. Yeah, well, they paid $300 to make it. So we're making smaller films. The independent world has really done well by these types of films. But now the studios are thinking, wait a second, I think we need to start making some films like this if we want to turn profits. For me, it's not so much about turning profits. It's about making great stories for people to be entertained by. And if you can have a faith backdrop, if you can talk about God and you talk about those issues, let's not forget, our country was built on faith. Our country, our Declaration of Independence has God mentioned in it 4 times. I was watching the president's speech the other night, and right behind him it says, in God we trust. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to trust more in him and worry less about ourselves. And family first, me second, God first, me second. These are the tenets that built America, and we're building upon that in our films.
Yeah, faith, family, and freedom. Those are the 3 F's that always seem to be eternal. You mentioned earlier, but you've also started this production company with your wife called the McDonough Company. This is surely really exciting for you, and I'm just curious what kind of content and stories you hope to tell with this new venture.
Good ones. We want to make movies that families can go to and enjoy. As a kid, my very favorite movie as a kid was The Cowboys with John Wayne. And I just loved that film. And it was a film that the whole family could see. And I've seen that film so many times. And there's some dark issues in it, but not crazy dark. There's some, there's everything you'd want in a movie. And those kind of movies are always kind of stuck in my brain. Now, Reve and I have the opportunity to actually make those films. And we're going to keep making films like that entertain the masses with a family feel and with a nice backdrop of God. And I think that not enough filmmakers are thinking that way. And that's what we're thinking, and that's what we're going to keep on doing.
Well, Neil, parenting is such a crucial issue right now, not just in this country, but in the world. I believe you have 5 beautiful children. I have 1 who just turned 1. My son did. What kind of a legacy, thank you, do you, I think about this, and I'm sure you have as a father too, but especially since you're in the entertainment industry, what kind of legacy do you want to leave to those children? Because I've had to think about that myself when you're in such a unique industry.
Oof, I don't really think that far in the future. I don't really think about me and my legacy. I'm thinking about today. What did I do today to make my kids' life better? What did I do today to make my wife's life better? And tomorrow isn't promised. Yesterday is already gone. What are you going to do today to make the world a better place for God? And that's what kind of drives me every single day. So all I can do is, you can tell your kids certain things, but it goes in one ear and out the other. But if you show kids who you are in public, what you do, what you stand for, me giving up alcohol 10 years ago wasn't easy, but I did it because I knew it was the right thing for my family. And my kids see that. My kids understand that. And they see other people who haven't given it up, who maybe should. There are some people out there who can have 1 glass of wine a week and they're fine by it. Some people aren't. I wasn't like that. It's the Irish in me, I think. So you got to figure out what works best for you and your family and God. And like I said, family first, me second, God first, me second. If you live by those tenets, Beau, I promise you, you make less dumb choices. And we're all idiots at times. We're all sinners. We all make stupid mistakes because we're human. But it's how you get up and dust yourself off after that that makes you a child of God. And that's what I'm trying to do in everything that I do.
And leading by example, of course, which it sounds like you've done a great job of doing. Neil, finally, what else is on the horizon for you coming up in the coming months and maybe even years?
Well, we got some great films coming out. Very proud of. Obviously, I'm back on Tulsa King, which we start in a couple of weeks, which I can't wait to get back and work with Sylvester. Stallone is like, he doesn't make sense how awesome he is, how bright he is, how energetic he is at 78 years old, and how fit he is. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then right after that, we start our big Western, The Wicked and the Righteous, which is Cain and Abel in the West, that John Avnet, who directed The Last Rodeo, is going to direct as well. So that's going to be a really big, fantastic film that I know is going to just speak volumes to families and getting through more situations. So I'm blessed to be here. I'm so fortunate to have the body of work that we built, but I feel like I'm just scratching at it.
Absolutely. Well, Neil, thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and we certainly look forward to The Last Rodeo and your other body of work. So God bless you, Neil.
God bless you both. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Our pleasure.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents
A Kennedy Curse. That is the theme of Angel Studios' newest documentary, RFK Legacy. It comes from acclaimed filmmaker Oliver Stone, director of the hit movie JFK, and his son Sean Stone, in a profile of the Kennedy legacy that you've never seen before.
I want to ask you about your father's assassination.
Anybody who reads that report will understand that Sirhan could not have killed my father.
It's a dirty story.
It explores the Kennedy legacy as told through the eyes of Bobby Kennedy Jr., who reflects upon his life and memories, his time on Cape Cod, his uncle's assassination, his own father's assassination, and his early interest in nature and the environment.
This time you have a drug addiction. How does that play out?
I wanted to be working with nature.
He was appalled at what he saw. This is how he became the leading environmental lawyer in the United States.
There's no right to pollute. The polluter pays.
My views are constantly misrepresented.
This compelling documentary profiles our current Secretary of Health and Human Services and dives deep into why Bobby Kennedy is who he is, why he cares so much about health in this country, and how his family legacy continues even after family members pass on far too soon.
I don't know if there's a curse. We do what we're supposed to do. The outcome's in God's hands.
To see RFK Legacy, go to angel.com/RAV, join the Angel Guild, and watch today. I'm Beau Davidson with your Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been in the news a lot lately as our Secretary of Health and Human Services, with a whole new approach to his position. But how did Bobby Kennedy become so interested in nature, public health, and the environment? Those questions are a fundamental part of a brand new documentary called RFK Legacy from Angel Studios, which is produced by acclaimed director Oliver Stone and directed by his son, Sean Stone. I'm joined by Sean now to get a deeper look into this film. Sean, thank you so much for being with me. First, I want to ask how you and your dad came to helm this project, because the why is always important to the viewer.
Sure. It was an idea that I had when RFK Jr. started running for president in late 23, because, he was carrying on, as I saw it, the legacy of his father and his uncle, right? His uncle became president. His father was struck down on the campaign trail in 68. And there was a synergy, there was a similarity as we still are seeing, I think, to that time period of the 60s. And there was such there was an extreme polarization in our country. We saw it in that time between, you name it, the rioting and the issues of basically the urban Black issues of that era. The Black Panthers arose out of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. You had obviously the student protests as well as, the anti-war protests in general against the Vietnam War. And there was, it was a very striking polarization. And I think as we have to point out, we're seeing so many similarities to this day. And so I felt that based on the fact that we had such a polarizing moment, it felt like an important story to tell of the parallels of those two times and the figure of RFK Sr., who was an important, very important man in the JFK administration and then in his own right thereafter. And I wanted to highlight him and his assassination. And then I wanted to show how his son, RFK Jr., despite what the media says about him and tries to turn him into this pariah and, the guy who's got brainworm or whatnot, to ridicule him, RFK Jr. is actually very much in the same legacy of his uncle and his father, doing a very important work. And we wanted to highlight that.
Without a doubt. Well, Sean, you ask a fundamental question in this film about whether the Kennedy family is cursed, considering all of the untimely deaths. What was Bobby's response to that? And does he consider himself a major target still to this day?
Well, for the answer, you got to watch the documentary. But I think that
That's a good director right there.
Look, I mean, I can't speak for them. I think that it's a little bit how do you say? It's a little bit simplified to think that the Kennedys are cursed when they've dealt with death and obviously public death in a way that most people don't deal with the public aspect of these deaths and murders. But many people, as we know, many people's families have gone through tragedy, and there are families that have lost all their children. There's death all around, and so I don't think that the Kennedys are exemplary in the sense of being a cursed family. Obviously, people point that out because of the tragic nature of JFK's assassination, and then his brother RFK's assassination, and then at the same time the Teddy Kennedy disaster at Chappaquiddick, right? But Teddy Kennedy still senator. He was a senator all his life and had a lot of success. They have a family that has made money. They have had a lot of success. So I don't think you could say they're cursed. I think that for the most part, they've all bought in. Not all, let's say a lot of them have bought into the Democratic machine, right? And are employed by it in different capacities and have done very well with it. And I think that's also why they then, like a lot of the family members, not all, but a lot of them turned on RFK Jr. when he, was this scion and this progeny of the Democrats, who starts questioning things like the safety of vaccines. And after a storied career as an environmental lawyer, and he had been that all through the 80s and 90s, and all of a sudden in the mid 2000s, all these Democrats start to turn on him, and his family members start to, basically publicly distance themselves from him. And it only got worse when he questioned things during COVID, and he wrote his book about Fauci, and obviously, took a step to run for president, critical of the Biden administration. So here he was basically breaking with the Democratic ranks. And because of that, they, publicly turned on him I think in very, frankly, humiliating ways for them more than for him, for family members to these things about the family member is really, I think it's pretty dark, to do so publicly.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously an outlier for a lot of different reasons. And what do you think was is the driving force behind Bobby? Would you say it's part faith? Is it a perseverance in spite of the odds, or maybe even defying death itself? What would you say is Bobby's why at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he talks about it a little bit in the documentary. Certainly he, I think, feels the weight of his ancestry. I think that he really does feel the importance of where, how do you say, when you're born into a family of such prominence as he was, he was a kid and he saw his uncle as president, and he was in the Oval Office, and then, he sees his father becoming senator and potentially becoming the next president. And then both these people are struck down. There's a choice, I think, psychologically, you could say there's a choice. And he, frankly, he went to a very dark period, and we talk about it. He went into drug abuse, and he got lost. But there's a choice between, do I basically kind of just toe the line, play, use my advantage in life, my, the the luck of the draw, let's say, right? He's got the advantage, he's got the money, he's got the relationships, the contacts, and he, you know, and he goes on to excel, you could say, right? He goes on to excel as a lawyer, but you could at that point basically just say, I'm just going to stay with kind of what's the comfort zone. I'm not going to push, you know, I'm not going to push the limits. I'm not going to go outside the box, right? I'm not going to step out of line.
Yeah.
Or you can go, well, you know what? My father, my uncle, they were willing to challenge the system, and they were willing to do what was right, even in the face of adversity, right? Even in the face of assassination. I think that's where RFK Jr. is different from some of his other, let's say, of his kin. He's willing to say, well, it's more important to do the right thing no matter what the cost. And I feel that from him. Maybe he hasn't been assassinated, knock on wood, but he's been publicly ridiculed. He's had character assassination, and he realized that there, you know, as he said he said publicly, like, you know, making certain decisions have certainly cost him a lot, and yet I don't know that he would ever say, yeah, it was a mistake. I think it's more important just for him to do what he feels to be the right thing, and realize you have a lot of allies on the other side of that.
Yeah, something I don't think I knew, Sean, was his deep addiction to heroin. And when you think about coming out of that and becoming who he is, and especially his interest in public health and making people safer, I think is a remarkable component. Is there anything, would you say, that you learned about the Kennedys that maybe perhaps you didn't know about them prior to directing RFK Legacy?
You know, going in to this project, I was very much motivated by a couple of books that thankfully we had access to the authors. The Real RFK Jr. By Dick Russell, and we interview him in the story. So there was that book, and then there was Brothers by Dave Talbot, another renowned journalist and author. And I think Brothers gave me a sense of who RFK Sr. was. Now, obviously, you know, none of us fully knows a man, and a few biographies are not going to do justice to the person, but it gave me some real insight into the importance, as I said, of RFK Sr. in his own right. And I think that there is a little bit of RFK Sr. being in the shadow of JFK, right? Because he didn't become president. And yet, when you watch the documentary, you will see, just for example, how important RFK Sr. was during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the fact that, you know, it could be argued that his brother JFK could have been bullied into making maybe some follies, some real potential disasters, you know, or blunders, you know, if he had been bullied, but RFK being by his side and being such a strong voice, saying we cannot preemptively strike Cuba and escalate the conflict with the Soviets, right? That may have staved off a Third World War, let's say. So, I mean, there's moments like this that you'll see in the documentary, and many more, where you just see RFK Sr. having such a strong backbone. And also, I love the transformation. You'll see very beautiful moments. I think more than anything, some of the moments that we found archivally or maybe forgot are so beautiful. Like when he's at the Democratic Convention after JFK's death, and he's on stage in '64, and basically the audience is just giving him such applause that he's basically brought to tears, and you really understand how affected he was by the death of his brother. And I think that's an important element in the story, that's something you can only feel. You can't really explain it with words. You have to feel it.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. I mean, I think without RFK Sr., the type of nuclear conflict we could have gotten into would have been transformational, if not tragic, for certain. That's something I learned from it. Well, finally, Sean, we know that you did this project with Angel Studios, and I find it actually really interesting that you chose to work with them and not any other Hollywood outfit. What was the reasoning for that, and what would you say are the intrinsic benefits of a studio like Angel?
You know, Angel was my first choice, actually. So I think we were very lucky to get the support of the Guild. I'm a fan of Angel Studio since they came on the scene, to my knowledge, around The Chosen, and then really they came to great prominence with Sound of Freedom. Basically beyond Christian Community, they had a blockbuster. And so I've been a fan of theirs, wanting to find something to do with them. And this project was coming together, and we submitted it to the Guild, which, for those that don't know, basically Angel now has over 1.5 million Guild members who are basically contributing to giving a voice. And I think this is what's exciting about what Angel is doing. And I hope there's, more studios like this cropping up that basically, as we know in Hollywood, there's gatekeepers. So if the Netflix execs don't like RFK Jr., or if you name it, some studio exec doesn't like RFK Jr., there's no way I can get this documentary on those platforms. But Amazon Prime is a little different, because you can basically just, it's like a pay for play kind of thing, right? You get on Amazon Prime, right, or Apple, because you're purchasing it by the view. But when it comes to a streaming outfit, there's a gatekeeping that goes on. With Angel, there's no gatekeeper. There's the Guild itself. And if you pass that Guild, whatever it is, score of 70% of approval, that people really love it and want to see it within that community, then the film gets distributed from Angel. And so I think that's democratizing the storytelling process. And so I that's why I'm a fan of it. And again, it was my first choice. I just felt that the story would resonate with the Angel audience, knowing that they'd release Sound of Freedom, and so many, obviously, ironically, RFK Sr., as we talked about, is a Democrat, and obviously a lot of the Democrats still adore RFK Sr., but so many Democrats have turned on RFK Jr., and so it's like RFK Jr. has been embraced, as we saw, by those on the right, many Republicans, some moderate Democrats, some old school Democrats that are just tired of the modern Democrat Party, right? But knowing that, we understood that the temperature was such that Angel would be a good fit for a product like this.
It is. And what you said has such resonance, because I can think of so many reasons why a Hollywood studio would say, no, we don't want RFK legacy. We're not going to make it. We don't want to fund it. Yet you go to Angel and you have, as you just said, 1.5 million reasons, or 1.5 million people who said, yes, we do want to see this. We have a vested interest in seeing it. And that's why being part of the Guild is so important, because without that 70% threshold, the project doesn't go forward. So you already know that you have a vested audience who has a vested interest in the project itself. So I think it's fascinating that Angel was #1 on your list, and I'm glad that they went ahead with it and that the Guild supported this. So thank you so much, Sean, and make sure you head on over to angel.com/RAV to join the Angel Guild so that you can see this incredible documentary, RFK Legacy, today. Welcome back. In the next few moments, I want to give you just a little teaser of some of the projects Angel has coming up or already streaming, such as the film Sketch. You'll also catch a glimpse of a new biblical series called Testament and an inspirational football movie called The Senior. So take a look at these segments, which we call Real Minute, and get a feel for some of the great content on Angel.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Beau Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. What happens when imagination becomes reality? That is the theme of Angel Studios' new release, Sketch.
Amber, you're incredibly creative. Here's the thing. Life is all about balancing the good and the bad. If you don't carry the good with you too, then it's just going to make the bad stronger.
Balancing the good with the bad. It's something we all have to do. The star of Sketch, actor Tony Hale, known for his roles in Veep and Arrested Development, plays a father who realizes his daughter likes to draw, but young Amber draws some imaginative yet rather dark sketches.
Feelings aren't bad. When you get angry, sad, or scared, put it in here, where it can't hurt anyone.
Yeah, we describe it like Jurassic Park meets Inside Out. And just the simple story is, not simple, but the story is my wife passes away, obviously my daughter's mother, and my daughter is dealing with grief. And she's drawing these just atrocious pictures. And Seth can explain a little bit of how that kind of idea came about, and then they come to life. And it's just really, it's a really fine line. What Seth does so beautifully is obviously the stakes could not be higher with loss, but just the way the comedy is woven throughout and how the tension is kind of balanced, and you take air out of the balloon in the little humorous ways, and it's just a really beautiful orchestration that he has done with it.
When Amber and her brother go into the woods, they drop her sketchbook in a pond, and it seems that some of those drawings come to life. The life lesson of this film is rather than running from pain, young Amber felt it and channeled it through her sketches. You can release your inner monsters in sketch, packed with energy, mystery, and movie magic. It's age appropriate for teenagers and their families, and anyone who enjoys the thrill of a ride. Now, the best way to enjoy this movie is to join the Angel Guild, which is comprised of over 1 million members who get to review and vote on the content that Angel releases. So it's a great way to have influence on the quality of film and TV that gets created. Head on over to angel.com/Rav to join the guild today. What if Pentecost happened in our city streets today?
Did you steal his body from the tomb?
They claim he is risen.
Jesus is alive.
He's dead.
Angel Studios' newest series, Testament, is a modern reimagination of the book of Acts, in which early Christians put their faith to the test. Although a biblical story, it presents some universal themes and principles. All of the wonder of the book of Acts, from miracles to courage, are dropped right into today's world. It's something old, yet something very new as well.
Stephen, you're too smart for this.
I just know it's true. It's something old, and yet something new.
Blasphemy, insurgency, inciting revolution.
Blasphemy, insurgency, inciting revolution. These are not unfamiliar concepts in today's world. And Testament delivers an authentic account of the Bible if it happened today. From belief to baptism, Testament the series will have you asking what faith actually is.
This has nothing to do with our faith. It has everything to do with it!
It's the story of a small group of believers who turned the world upside down. Testament the series is streaming only on Angel Studios, and you can catch it by heading to angel.com/Rav to join the Angel Guild. I'm Beau Davidson with this Real America's Voice Real Minute. It's fall, and that means America's favorite sport, football, is back. And Angel Studios has brought a brilliant and inspiring movie about a 59-year-old man who still wants to play the game.
Knock me down, I don't feel pain.
Mike, you're right, you always will be, but you can hit.
After nearly 4 decades, almost 60-year-old Mike Flint returns to his alma mater because he never finished his senior year due to being thrown out for fighting. Actor Michael Chiklis, whom you'll remember from the TV series The Shield, stars in this true story about a man who has unfinished business.
You better get out of my face, little man.
Get out of my face! Nothing matters if I can't be out there with my team.
He has a chance to redo his senior year.
Flint believes that we aren't defined by our successes, but by our regrets. And he says he's had a lot of them, as a teammate, as a husband, and as a dad. The senior reminds us that it's never too late to get in the game and turn things around. You can watch The Senior by going to angel.com/Rav and joining the Angel Guild, a community of like-minded viewers who want to see superb quality content. So get back in the game, relive your dreams, and head on over to angel.com/Rav.
Welcome to Real America's Voice Real Minute, your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Beau Davidson with your Real America's Voice Real Minute. What was George Washington like before he became our nation's first president? The brand new film Young Washington tells the untold story of Washington's early life, his failures, and and how that shaped his path to become the leader that would spawn America's independence. It's a bold, authentic story that is neither woke nor watered down, and it's directed by John Irwin, who brought the world I Can Only Imagine, American Underdog, and Jesus Revolution. Take a listen to Irwin talk about the project here.
First of all, it's an incredible story. It's a story that not many people know. What's interesting about George Washington is it wasn't his greatest victory that defined him as a young man, it was his greatest failure and how he responded to it that made him George Washington.
Everyone kind of knows George Washington as our first president, but few know how he actually got there. The defeats, the misfortune, the critical mistakes at Fort Necessity, dashing all of his hopes and dreams. He resigned his position and became an aide to a general, and in an unreal act of bravery, took fate into his own hands.
And Washington, in this act of bravery with strength that he didn't have, mounted a horse and charged towards the battlefield when everyone else was running away. He had 3 horses shot out from underneath him. He had 4 bullet holes, 2 in his jacket, 1 in his hat, and he just became George Washington in this moment on the field of battle.
The idea that there was a divine hand in Washington being saved that fateful day is a key theme of young Washington's tale. It's one part Pride and Prejudice and one part The Revenant. It's the story of how a man didn't let defeat define him, but instead took that defeat and turned it not only into his own fate, but the fate of this new nation. And the best part of all, it's a true story. Young Washington's release will be on July 4th of next year, which coincides with America's 250th birthday. You're going to want early access to this film, especially to get tickets for its opening day. And here's how you go do it. Go to angel.com/Rav and become a premium Angel Guild member, which will give you 2 free tickets to the movie, but in addition, that gives you access to every streaming show or movie on Angel's platform. And you'll also get exclusive behind-the-scenes access leading up to the premiere. So go to angel.com/Rav today to get that access, follow the journey of young Washington, and help make this the #1 movie of 2026. What you just saw was a glimpse of a brand new project Angel will be releasing next year, called Young Washington. It's a historical drama that I think is going to be very powerful. And if you've ever seen any of John Irwin's films, well, you're in for a treat. You know that he makes great movies. So now that you've seen just a glimpse of some of the great content Angel already has released and will be releasing in the future, you're going to want to become an Angel Guild member. It's pretty simple. You go to angel.com/Rav and you will see a place to put in your email address. Simple as that. Start watching, and even better, start voting on those torches. And by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there is outstanding children's content there as well. Shows like Tuttle Twins, The Wingfeather Saga, and Young David. So when you become a Guild member, you're not just watching content you like, but also content that the kids can watch together, knowing that you're not exposing your kids to unwanted profanity or inappropriate subjects. And if you're a Tuttle Twins fan, you know that they will learn a lot about our government and basic civics. And next week, I will be at the International Christian Visual Media Storytellers Conference in Orlando, where I will be interviewing a number of Angel Guild members, as well as Angel Studios creators. So make sure that you stay tuned to Rav all next week, where I will be giving you a live report. For now, I'm Beau Davidson.